On 5 News tonight, a developing story with reports of a gun attack at a German shopping centre. Also, the damning verdict on Sports Direct. And could it really be President Donald Trump? Reports of multiple deaths after shots are fired at a shopping centre in Munich. The situation is ongoing. We'll have the very latest. Also, MPs compare Sports Direct to a Victorian workhouse and say its boss, Mike Ashley, must be held accountable for appalling conditions. Plus,
and we will make America great again. God bless you and good night. I love you.
Donald Trump formally accepts the Republican nomination. We'll be asking whether he really can win the race for the White House. Hello and welcome to 5 News Tonight. We start with some breaking news. There are reports of multiple casualties after shots were fired at a shopping centre in southern Germany. Police in Munich have declared a major operation. Let's get the latest from Simon Weigart in our newsroom. Simon, the police there have just said they're dealing with what they believe was a shooting rampage. What more can you tell us?
That's right, it's a confused picture at the moment, Julian, but they're saying it could be more than one gunman involved. None of them have been caught at the moment. And the shopping centre, which is right by the Olympic Stadium, the 1972 Olympic Stadium, these are the latest pictures, some of which have been posted on social media. People running away from the shopping centre. Many shots fired. Police sources at the moment saying one person dead and possibly 10 injured. However, there are conflicting reports coming in from Munich saying that the number of deaths is much higher than one. Staff are hiding out in the shopping centre, and across the city, all the metro services have been suspended. So that's the buses, the trams and the trains. You can see people here outside the shopping centre. The police clearly not extending the cordon there. It looks reasonably relaxed there in terms that people aren't running away, but we saw from earlier pictures that certainly was the case. So it's a confused picture. This has happened in the last hour or so. One report saying one person dead and several injured. Other reports saying the death toll is much higher than that, and that there is possibly more than one gunman involved. None have been caught.
And Simon, Germany has escaped these terrorist attacks in the last few years. The incident the other day on the train with 2 people were killed. Germany was on high alert there, wasn't it, after that?
Yeah, not far from Munich on Monday, the axe and knife attack on a train which left 5 people hurt. And that was a teenager. And of course, it's only a week since the terrible attack in Nice in southern France. So all European countries on high alert, including the UK. We have to say that, and we're getting in details of this Munich attack minute by minute. But at the moment, one police source saying one person dead, several injured, but the death toll could be higher than that.
Thank you very much indeed, Simon. Update us if you can. The UK Foreign Office has urged British people in Germany to avoid that shopping centre at the moment and to follow the advice of local authorities. Well, just before we came on the air, I spoke on the phone to Victor Wood. He's British, but he's lived in Germany for the last 20 years. He was actually at the shopping centre in Munich, and I asked him to describe the scene.
Well, we were leaving the Olympic Arts Centre at about 5 minutes before the hour on the side entrance. It's an L-shaped building, and the main entrance is at the 90-degree turn of the L. And we left the building. We were going to go into the subway system when we heard shots. Now, it sounded to me a bit like a machine gun, this sort of weapon. And I would say I heard about 15, 20 shots somewhere in that region. And I said to my wife at the time, "It sounds like gunshots." It was a bit strange. But there was no sound of screaming or anything like that. But I couldn't see the actual main entrance from where I was. It's purely the sound. We went on to into the metro, and about 2-3 minutes later, when the train came, there was quite a lot of people coming in and a lot of noise. And when I got out of the train a couple of minutes later at my stop, there was lots of police going past and ambulances and so on. Even now in the background, you might be able to hear there's the occasional police car going past. and I've been having the helicopter replaced over our house and everything. So it's most definitely gunfire. I don't know how serious the incident is. The local news has a lot of conflicting information at the moment, which is understandable, including that there might be a second attack in Duckhurst, Karlsplatz, which is right in the centre. But I have no information about that at all. I feel a bit shocked, somewhat naturally. It's an L-shaped building. If you look on the plans of the centre on the web, you'll see where. And it was, I wouldn't say it was packed, but there was certainly a lot of people in there. I mean, what you'd expect on a Friday afternoon. People doing the shopping for the weekend and so on.
So we'll bring you more on this story as it develops. Munich police only confirming multiple deaths at the moment. They've also said that they believe that there was more than one gunman involved, and they're currently evacuating that shopping centre in Munich. More on that as we get it. Now, today's other news now, and Sports Direct, the country's biggest sports retailer, has been heavily criticised today. One MP has likened working conditions there to a Victorian workhouse after a scathing official report found employees weren't paid enough, were humiliated and penalised for being ill. As for its founder, Mike Ashley, MP said it was incredible that a hands-on boss wouldn't know what was going on and are demanding he's made accountable. Dominic Reynolds reports.
Big brands and low prices. This business is pretty straightforward with its customers, but for the people inside Sports Direct, it's different. MPs say workers aren't treated like humans. Do its customers care? They say it's like a Victorian workhouse working for Sports Direct. Does that bother you?
If someone's been treated badly, then I don't think that we should pay our money there.
MPs have said they treat their staff like commodities, not like human beings.
I think that happens quite a lot in big companies like that. So if I'm not going to go to Sports Direct anymore because of that, then I'm not going to go to a lot of shops, I think.
Have you created a culture of fear with Sports Direct?
Definitely not.
Are you underpaying?
Here's the man who built it, and MPs say Mike Ashley was dragged kicking and screaming to answer their questions last month. He admitted some workers were paid below minimum wage.
For that specific bit of time, yes.
And admitted the policy of fines for arriving a minute late wasn't fair.
I think that's unreasonable.
The MP who wrote today's report said this company's practices belong in the past.
We thought we'd got rid of that in the 19th century in terms of some of the factory acts from the Victorian times. I can't believe it's coming back in 2016. We need to stamp it out quickly.
Dignity was in short supply in this warehouse. Undercover filming last year showed a culture of fear. Employees on insecure contracts afraid to take breaks. One even gave birth in a toilet. MPs heard permanent contracts were offered to young women in return for sexual favours. Jack used to work for the company and says he wasn't treated well.
It's one thing to sort of lift boxes for hours and hours, but it's a different thing to do that lifting while people are treating you like you're scum.
Sports Direct told us today it's our policy to treat all our people with dignity and respect. We're pleased the committee has recognised Mike Ashley's commitment to engage in addressing any shortcomings in the working practices at Sports Direct. Should Sports Direct be prosecuted for not paying the minimum wage? Well, HMRC is looking into that. But MPs said they want a review now into how this business is run to make sure your bargain doesn't come at someone else's expense. Dominic Reynolds, 5 News.
It was one of the key arguments of the Remain campaign. The warnings our economy would suffer if we left the European Union. Well, today experts said they had the first evidence that Brexit has been bad for business. They suggested the economy had slumped at its fastest rate since the financial crisis 7 years ago. Charlotte Grant reports.
The shock to our economy after leaving Europe would tip the country into recession.
Material slowdown in growth, notable increase in inflation.
Lower output, lower growth, and higher domestic prices.
Those were the warnings. Now evidence suggests our economy is suffering. A survey of purchase managers, those are the people on the front line of economic activity, keeping across output and new orders coming in, say the outlook is bleak. At this clothes manufacturer, they agree. For 4 years, business was growing, but now orders are down.
We have not experienced anything like this before, where everyone that we have dealt with, whether it's fabric sellers, whether it's brands, whether it's stores, are all really jittery and nervous. Uncertainty in the market really is bad for us.
The PMI, or Purchasing Managers Index, is a survey of 650 businesses. It gives an overall score based on their responses. Above 50 points to an expanding economy, but below 50 suggests the economy is shrinking. The latest figures show a drop from 52.4 in June before the EU vote, down to 47.7 in July. New Chancellor, on his first visit overseas to China, said he is prepared to take action if necessary.
I've made it clear that at the autumn statement we will have an opportunity, if necessary, on the basis of the data that's then available, to provide further support to the economy in the announcements we make then.
The Bank of England surprised everyone by not cutting interest rates last month. But analysts predict they'll now do everything to try to avoid a recession.
The Bank of England will almost certainly throw the kitchen sink at this when they next meet in August, and I would anticipate some pretty aggressive stimulus measures.
These latest figures are only for 1 month. It is the next several months that will determine the state of the economy. Charlotte Grant, 5 News.
Donald Trump has accepted his Republican presidential nomination, declaring to the convention in Cleveland, "I am your voice." Well, last night that voice was unusually foreboding and at times apocalyptic. He described the US as a crime-ridden country at threat from terrorists and overrun by immigrants, and he made no bones about how his opponent Hillary Clinton fits into that. Here is a flavour of what he had to say.
I humbly and gratefully accept your nomination for the presidency of the United States. I am your voice. America is far less safe, and the world is far less stable than when Obama made the decision to put Hillary Clinton in charge of America's foreign policy. We are going to build a great border wall to stop illegal immigration, to stop the gangs and the violence, and to stop the drugs from pouring into our communities. And we will make America great again. God bless you and good night. I love you.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Kate Andrews, who's from Republicans Overseas. Now, Kate, you've said you won't be voting for Donald Trump. This was a very controlled speech from him, and dare I say, did he start to sound a bit more presidential, do you think?
Well, he read from the screen and he stood at the podium behind it the whole time, so he's really making progress. But yes, you are right. It does sound a bit more presidential in the sense that he has moved away from some of his more outrageous comments. And you'll notice specifically with Hillary Clinton that he's not attacking her for her gender, which many people suspected he would. But he is really focusing in on the skeletons in her closet, and she does have a few. He's focusing in on her record and on her email scandal, and I think he'll be very successful in that sense.
He really did make it about Hillary last night, didn't he? Let's just hear one of those attacks he made on her.
Her bad instincts and her bad judgment, something pointed out by Bernie Sanders, are what caused so many of the disasters unfolding today. Let's defeat her in November. Okay?
Is he actually putting forward his own policies and ideas, or is he just making it about criticising Hillary, do you think?
Oh, I think if we can be sure of one thing now, it's the fact that Donald Trump is not going to put forward his own policies before November. He gave one of the longest Republican acceptance speeches in modern history. And we did not hear much policy or facts or stats or statistics from him. I mean, I have to agree with him on many of his criticisms of Hillary Clinton, but that doesn't make me want to endorse him anymore. They're both seeking power more than they're seeking solutions for the American people. But no, I think they're both really lacking in their forward vision at the moment, and that's coming across to all Americans. At this point, it's just under 50% of Americans that say that they would consider a third-party candidate over Trump or Clinton.
We have seen a lot of his children recently, haven't we? Last night, Ivanka, his daughter, was there. Let's just have a quick listen to her as well.
I've loved and respected him my entire life. As the proud daughter of your nominee, I am here to tell you that this is the moment and Donald Trump is the person to make America great again.
Kate, do you think he can appeal to Americans as an ordinary family man?
I think he's trying to, and the fact that a lot of prominent Republicans didn't show up to convention meant that he had the opportunity to put his own family on stage, and on the whole, they did very well. There were problems with his wife's speech in terms of accusations of plagiarism, which I think haunted them, but not for very long. That scandal really blew over. I think Ivanka delivered the best speech of the convention. She was poised, she was smart, she was bringing women's issues into the fold, but she wasn't doing it by attacking Hillary Clinton. She was talking about them from a conservative perspective, but still a progressive perspective. And actually, I think she did him a lot of good. He seems to have raised some really good kids, and for a lot of Republicans who are worried that he isn't attached to family values, this might have helped him a little bit.
And just briefly, he seems to be putting a question mark over very basic things like NATO, doesn't he?
Yes, I mean, you have to wonder why he decided to attack NATO at his convention. He doesn't need to upstage himself at his own convention with that kind of news. But this is typical Donald Trump. He's attacking different countries on different days depending on what he feels like. One of the reasons so many moderate Republicans, I think, are still struggling to get behind him is because we just haven't seen that commitment to policy and to economic freedom and to free market values. We're still light on policy, and he changes his mind constantly, so we're still waiting to see what's going to come in there.
And we'll hear Hillary next week. Thank you so much, Kate Andrews from Republicans Overseas. Coming up on 5 News tonight, the very latest from Germany after that gun attack on a shopping centre in Munich. And the man who received the UK's first double hand transplant describes his joy.
It's better than any lottery win because you feel whole again.
We'll see you after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News Tonight. Let's get the latest on that developing story in southern Germany. Reports of multiple casualties at a shopping centre in Munich. Simon Weigard's still in our newsroom. Simon, the numbers of deaths are starting to come through now, aren't they?
That's right. Police are describing this as a shooting rampage, Julian, and the latest number quoted from the Bavarian Interior Ministry is that 3 people have died and several more are wounded in this rampage in the shopping centre, in the Olympic shopping centre in Munich. These are the latest pictures we have of, we believe, police marksmen on the roof of the shopping centre, which is, of course, in complete lockdown. Staff are hiding inside. All the metro services have been stopped on the trains and the buses and the trams, and there are reports that one gunman, it may well be more than one gunman, has got down into the train network. Here you can see people obviously fleeing the scene. Many shots were fired according to eyewitnesses. There are some reports that there are multiple deaths. Another quoting the police saying 1 person is dead. Obviously this is a developing situation, we don't know, but the latest number from the Interior Ministry in Bavaria is that 3 people have died in this latest shooting rampage in Munich.
Thank you very much indeed for that at the moment, Simon. Let's speak to the security expert, Chris Phillips. Details are not clear at the moment, Chris, but this does sound horrendous, doesn't it? Another attack.
Unfortunately, it does, and it looks like we're going to suffer a number of these across Europe in the coming months ahead. It's very difficult times, but it's pretty standard stuff, this, from people who want to create chaos and mass murder. Multiple coordinated attacks using firearms and maybe explosives, so we don't know yet. But it is, unfortunately, something that we are going to have to get used to.
This sort of attack we've been fearing, it sounds on the face of it very much like the Westgate siege in Kenya 3 years ago, but in Germany.
Yeah, shopping centres are particularly open to this type of attack because, of course, they're open every day, 7 days a week. Normally, you'll see a shopping centre open. So the attackers can go and reconnoitre the location, can see what they're where they want to hit, and they've got free access to do that. And it's very difficult to put too much security into a location such as a shopping centre.
The Interior Minister of Germany warned people only 2 days ago that they should be prepared for further attacks. That appears to have happened, but until now, Germany hadn't really experienced that many attacks, had it?
No, and I think, unfortunately, we are going to have to get used to terrorist attacks. We know for a fact that ISIS are telling people within the West to go and kill people, which is just incredible. But they are, and they see this as a tactic. And of course, there's enough people within Europe that are prepared to do this to be a big problem. And this is a massive issue for police forces right across Europe. It's not just in Germany or France. And other countries, and including the United Kingdom, need to step up now and try to get ready to deal with these sort of incidents.
And German police calling this a rampage. That is so easy, isn't it, in a shopping centre like this?
Yeah, it's a multiple coordinated attack, and that is a very difficult thing for police to deal with, because you have moving targets effectively, and if you
I think we've lost Chris there, but thank you very much indeed for that update. A man from Doncaster has made British medical history as the country's first double hand transplant patient. 57-year-old Chris King lost his hands in a machine accident 3 years ago. But now, after a highly complex operation, he's had both hands replaced. And as Jessica Omery reports, he couldn't be happier.
The hands were made to measure. They absolutely fit.
Chris King is just getting used to his new hands.
There's feeling there.
He can already wiggle his fingers, just days after having the UK's first double hand transplant.
I couldn't wish for anything better. It's better than any lottery win, because you feel whole again.
Chris lost most of both hands in an accident at work. He was using a metal pressing machine when the safety guard failed.
They're my hands. They really are my hands. My blood's going through them.
It took 8 surgeons 12 hours to attach Chris's bones, tendons and blood vessels to those of the donor.
Just push out straight. Brilliant. And the other side. Lovely.
It was a success. But for the man behind the operation, new techniques throw up new challenges.
Nobody cares what their kidney looks like, as long as it works. But not only do we have to match the hands immunologically in the same way we have to match the kidneys and livers, but they also have to look appropriate, because the hands are on view the whole time. And so, in a way, that makes the job of finding the correct donor even harder.
Chris knows all too well that this gift follows grief for another family.
It's like somebody putting a arm around you and saying, "You'll be all right."
The donor's brother said they're devastated, but proud. Chris hopes their kindness will encourage others to follow suit.
It's rather difficult to say thank you.
For now, the order of the day is rest, but he's already planning what he'll do with his newfound dexterity.
I'm looking forward to being able to ride my bike properly, and a bottle of Timothy Taylor's. That's what I can't wait to get back for. Lovely beer.
You can be sure his family will be the first to raise a toast to that. Jessica Omery, 5 News.
With me is Lynn Holt, who was the UK's first clinical transplant coordinator and is now a big supporter of the British Transplant Games. Lynn, what is your reaction to seeing that just then?
Amazing. And the family, the donor family, that they've donated hands when normally they've been talked to about organs. So for the donor families, having that donation conversation with their families, it's so important.
And these operations are so precarious, aren't they? I mean,
well, they're
surprising
all,
that it was so successful, I guess.
The hand transplant, there are similarities. You need a donor, you need a high-skilled surgeons, a big team of surgeons in this case, and you need to always watch out for rejection and take drugs for life. So lots of similarities with this gentleman. His life, his quality is being enhanced, and hopefully it's going to be amazingly better. Same with organ transplants. Their lives are saved. And hopefully we'll see that at the British Transplant Games in Liverpool next week.
He says he's whole again now after having this done. Clearly delighted. Psychologically, will it be straightforward to get used to it? do you think?
The difference with him, he can see his transplant, whereas the organs are inside and they can't. But he seems very positive, doesn't he? And very happy.
And in terms of transplant, I mean, you worked in transplants for nearly 40 years. Could you have imagined something like this when you started?
Not 40 years ago, absolutely not. But now we have skin transplants, face transplants. So, you know, we know in transplantation there's always new challenges and new boundaries to push out.
And what has changed, do you think, that we're now able to see things like this?
Research, clinical expertise, pioneers, pushing the boundaries, new drugs, lots of new drugs to help prevent rejection and infections. So the skills and the expertise of the whole team, obviously over the years, is improving and still needs to improve.
And we have seen full face transplants, of course. Is there any real limit, do you think, to what can be achieved in the future?
Well, pushing the boundaries out. We've heard of the heads and the brain transplants coming up in the future. So as long as there are pioneers and as long as there are patients and hopefully donors and families discussing their donation wishes with their families.
And something like that hand transplant, if it happens more and more, it becomes more standard, I guess it could be offered on the NHS possibly as well.
Well, hopefully anything that improves quality of life, enhances life and gives people life, hopefully the NHS will respect that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that on that good news. Lynn Holt there. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
That is it from us. Just a reminder of that breaking news tonight. Officials in southern Germany say 3 people are confirmed to have been killed in a gun attack on a shopping centre in Munich. Several more people are said to be wounded. Police say they believe there was more than one gunman. It is an ongoing situation. We'll bring you updates throughout the evening with Chloe Potter. But for now, though, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.